What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Although I take it very personally when our executive producer rips me in his notes, and he ripped me pretty bad this last episode,
Well,
and it hurt my
that's what he
feelings.
does. And sometimes pain is love in the
Yeah,
podcast game.
that must be what it is.
You know,
That
he
must
does
be
not
what it is.
he does not tear us down to make us weaker. He tears us down to build us back stronger.
Yeah, and I felt like saying, "Hey, maybe the problem isn't my end. Maybe the problem is your end." But I
You talking
can't
about me
do
or
that
talking about
because
him?
him.
Oh, well, maybe. You know, it's
You know, maybe I should have lobbed that top spin back serve back over the net right at him.
maybe you could have, but you
I could have,
didn't.
but I didn't.
And
I did. I took the lumps, and I just said, you know what? If the EP says it, it must be so.
well, the funny thing is nobody knows what you're talking about because he quit sharing the notes to Twitter and Instagram, all at liquid underscore EP a long time ago. So as far as
Oh,
as far as our
perfect.
readers know, you're just having sour grapes over a random conversation last week that nobody knows anything about.
Then in that case, I'll just keep it like that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean that should add some intrigue to our social media. Like I
That's
said, you
right.
could find those. You could find past notes, nothing current, on liquid underscore EP, both on Instagram and Twitter.
Very good.
So
Very good.
we'll get his plug out of the way early. How are you, my friend? It's been a good weekend. As a lot going on this time of year as fall rolls on. I mean, it's closer to November.
Hey, you know what? Maybe you could help me. Are you one of these technological people that always has to buy the newest phone when it comes out?
I'm growing out of it.
Okay, but you would say that you have what phone do you have right now?
I've got the iPhone. What are they on the 13?
Yeah.
So what's the one that came out 2 years ago? That one.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
eligible for an upgrade. I just haven't done it yet.
gosh, what are your rules? Because I'm on a 10 right now, which
Uh
is I
huh.
guess 3 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the phone works fine. It does everything I need it to do. However, when you go in the iStore, oh, you gotta get rid of that and get 13. You got to
Well, that's
because the
upsell.
13 does this and this and this and that and this, and it's like, but I have no payment on this phone.
Well, that's half the battle. And also, if you're trying to be upsold by a bunch of nerdy 20 somethings who have achieved their life goal by working in an Apple store, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, okay, all right, that sounds good. I can live
I
with that.
mean, quite frankly, if you can't do it online with your Apple product, something's really gone bad and you're really screwing it up.
Maybe so. I just put on the new operating system on my old phone,
Uh huh.
and I'm already noticing that there's some weird stuff going on, like with there's a lot more notifications now coming up about
Yeah.
security and stuff like that, and I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't have done that because I like when you get your phone set up exactly the way you want it, you kind of want to keep it that way.
My assistant's the same way at work, except with the Windows on our computers. He didn't want to. I don't know what the current Windows is, but he didn't want to upgrade to the one before it, so he purposely went and re-downloaded. I forget, whatever version was 3 or 4 versions ago, because to him it was easier to operate. And he kept that iOS or that Windows platform until they switched out his computers about a month ago and made him go to the newest, latest, and greatest. And he's been complaining ever since.
Now, are you a believer though that you have to upgrade your systems to protect it because of the security measures that are put on these releases?
I think so. I think
Okay.
when you start messing with security and talking about how people can get a hold of your information, you have to do what you think is best, but ultimately you have to do what's best for keeping your information private too. So if that means upgrading to a better security system, then you should upgrade your phone to have a better security system.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to take it as I did upgrade my phone, and I'll just have to deal with the the quirks that come with updating to the newest version.
I guess it all comes down to your upgrading preference, really. What it is you're trying to do, what you want out of life, and what you're willing to stay with versus what it could actually cost you in the long run.
So, so what are your thoughts about them always on these upgrades changing a little bit of the system, just a little bit, so that the look is a little different and the font is a little different? Why did they do that? Why did they
I
do
don't
that?
know, just to keep it fresh. I'm sure. I mean,
Okay.
people's tastes change, and you know, Apple's a closed source system versus Androids, which are open source. So you can do a lot more with Androids, but also leave yourself open to more uh, viruses and other malware attacks because of the open source.
Now I recognize the idiocy of my questions when you're talking the wealthiest or the most valued company in the world. Um, they seem to have a good pulse on what works and what doesn't. So,
Yeah.
my pet peeve is more Seinfeldian by complaining about things that I probably don't need to be complaining about.
Well, it's a sign of age, my friend. And the older we get, the more we want things to stay the same. But unfortunately, time evolves. And as time goes forward, everything in life evolves. So,
Yes.
that's a very interesting question because we talked about a few things in a pre-production text meeting, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's something I use. It's a phrase I use a lot. And in this case, you're talking about the Apple upgrade. Should you upgrade to iOS 15? Well, you can avoid it for now, but eventually you're going to have to take it, or none of your system is going to be supported.
And so, okay, so my philosophy has always been as soon as I see the thing come up, I don't question, I just download and move forward.
Yes.
Now, like your coworker, though, he purposefully did not update to the newest version because he didn't want to bring on the new stuff to his computer.
Well, he just didn't want to learn the new system, is all it was.
Learning the new system. Now, isn't that a funny statement? Learning the new system.
And
Uh,
really all it is it's email and Microsoft Office. If you couldn't figure out like Chrome or whatever else, that's really on him.
yeah, yeah. Do you think that it's a person's responsibility to keep up to speed on the technologies of the day?
Well, I think up to an extent, yes. I mean, there are certain things that you just have to learn to do if you want to be an able-bodied person in this system. Just because we don't do things a certain way anymore doesn't mean we should bring it back just to accommodate the few people that are unwilling to push themselves forward or get with the times.
Interesting. Yeah, I had an interesting thing happen to me, but my mom brought up a good point. So my mom is an older woman, but she's actually pretty good with the technologies and apps, and she buys tickets to concerts and downloads into her app. So it's not like she doesn't know how to do those things. However, she called me and said, "Hey, Jason, I'm running into a problem. I have we're buying tickets for a friend of ours for some event, and they only do uh, e-tickets. They don't do, they don't allow you to print up a paper ticket anymore. Can you think of a way that I could, you know, get a paper ticket for him because the person I'm buying it for does not feel comfortable with the technology of his phone, and he doesn't know whether or not he's going to be able to do what he needs to do." And I instantly I found myself being really cynical and said, "How is that possible that someone does not know how to get things onto their phone?" I immediately thought that.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately started like I she was saying, well, maybe they'll have, maybe they have a special kiosk down there you can print them out, or maybe, do they have a kiosk where the person can just scan the kiosk? I said, Mom, I think that more and more of these stadiums are starting to go to paperless tickets. Now, for
Yeah,
you and I,
it's
that's
true.
not a big deal. That's right. That's just a normal thing we deal with. But if you're an elderly person that doesn't know how to do that, how frustrating is that?
Well, doesn't know how to do it or doesn't want to learn how to do it. There's a difference.
Okay,
There's a
so
big difference.
the old school is that once you get to a certain age, your wardrobe stops changing and you stop having to learn new things. And I don't know, maybe that was something from a time that we're no longer in. But I think that the generation before, especially, hey, I got through this world. I've hit this certain age. I don't need to learn anything anymore. I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that mindset works technology as it does with fashion. Up updating and upgrading your fashion sense and stay the same. That's fine. But some things you just have to keep evolving with. Eventually, if you want to enjoy the advancements of today's world.
So
You
do
know,
you
it,
feel, yeah, so you feel that at some point, if you want to stay current in today's world, you have to open yourself up to learning new things and trying being exposed to that.
yeah, absolutely. Because I think if 100 plus years ago people refused to buy into the automobile and they were just going to ride their horse by hook or by crook, that's on them. But ultimately, eventually, they got phased out. They lost out, and the world left them behind.
Well, before though, they could survive in that world though. These
Well,
farmers that lived out in the boonies, they didn't need to have a car. They stayed in the same town for their whole lives, like
yeah,
some people do. They don't need a car. When you're making it now, where you have to have the technology in order to go to a show, that's a little different.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. If the whole world had to change and adapt the way of doing business because of a pandemic, for example,
Hmm.
a person's refusal to figure out how to work something that the company they want to use is providing is not the company's fault. The company is at that point saying, I want to use my product. I want to use my product this way. Here's how I'm making my product available to you. As the consumer, do not want to upgrade your technology or learn how to use that business's product, that is on you, not the business. And the business should not have to change its way uh, because, well, what if not everybody can use it?
So, okay, that's an interesting point. So, is there any situation where you shouldn't have to learn something to adapt to the changes in your society?
Well, I think that's a rough way of putting it, but I think you have to be willing to grow and evolve. I mean, for God's sakes, my dad went from a flip phone to an iPhone, kicking and screaming. No, he couldn't take away his iPhone to save his life.
Right.
Most of these elderly people are afraid of technology because they don't understand it and they don't want to take the time to understand it. But they'll tell you the inner workings of their satellite TV or whatever their interest is at home. So they have the ability. It's just a matter of choice more than anything.
Yeah. So when you have an issue like that with Noreen's dad, he's 91, he's blind, he's legally deaf and legally blind, so he doesn't have access to a phone. Even if he wanted to learn technology, it's not conducive to, like, he
You see,
can't order an Uber, he can't, go to a show, he
but
can't
that's
even
different. That's
he
different.
what's the difference?
He's hold on. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me.
It got you.
The wind is. I'm sorry. The allergies are just going crazy. The wind is going nuts. The seasons are changing. The difference with Noreen's dad versus your mom's friend is Noreen's dad physically cannot see and cannot hear. So
Right.
he does have a disability. It's not that he's not willing to learn. Even if there was a way, which I'm not sure how there is, he'd have to, learn to adapt. But that's night and day, apples and oranges when you're talking about someone refusing to put a virtual ticket on his phone versus asking a legally deaf and legally blind man to learn how to use a telecommunication device.
Yeah, well, and the sad part though is he can't order an Uber to go out. Like
Yeah,
he's able to go out, he can go out to lunch. If he could order an Uber, then he could go wherever he wanted to go, but he can't, right?
yeah,
And he gets left behind if you're not learning the new technologies and the new ways of these technologies are built in
yeah. But
today's world.
that's shoehorning a totally unique situation into the conversation to make it sound like he's at the same disadvantage as this other gentleman that your mom was talking about.
Yeah, I
And
guess the difference is that this other person could learn the
exactly,
technology,
he just chooses
could
not
learn
to.
it.
He
He
just
could
chooses
do,
not to.
and let's be honest. I mean, it does seem that if you use a computer, then you should be able to use the technology on the phone, right? I mean,
Yes, that is the theory.
you know,
Yeah.
if you use a computer, then you should be able to at least understand the concepts enough to be able to understand how to put your tickets on.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, if you don't know how to order an Uber, you know, that technology, I have to be honest, the first time I ordered an Uber, it was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
The app like basically did, you know, you get on the app, you tell it where you want to go, and it does everything else for you. So it really doesn't have too much, you know, intricacies.
That's a lot of what technology is. It's just knowing what to do and when you need to do it. And it's taking the 5 minutes to learn how to figure it out. And if this person bought his cell phone at a local cell phone store or an Apple store or whatever the hell you know, Cracker Jack box you get Androids out of, then hopefully you get a tutorial on how to use the phone for specific things. Because every phone I've purchased from an actual person at a retail shop has asked me if I've wanted a tutorial on how to use the phone.
Yeah.
And if you don't take advantage of the opportunities you have in front of you to teach yourself something about a product you're going to use every day, that's on you. And being
does
a
it
stubborn elderly person does not give you a pass to make the rest of the world adapt to the fact that you don't want to figure out how to use virtual tickets.
so you the football stadiums, the venue concerts, they should have to deal with paper tickets.
If they don't
Like
want to, if they want to evolve and not have to anymore, that's their business.
yeah.
You
And
know,
would if there was something that you know, let's say that you had to speak fluent Spanish to go to a concert, would you learn Spanish so you can go to a concert?
I don't understand why you'd have to learn Spanish to go to a concert.
I don't understand why you can't have a paper ticket.
Well,
What's
that's the way technology is evolving in this conversation. Having to learn Spanish to go to a Spanish concert again, different context altogether.
so you're saying that you wouldn't learn Spanish if it was forced on you?
Well, one, you have to do that in high school. It's called foreign language.
Not, no, these older people aren't learning in high school the technologies.
Well, it's because they graduated before these technologies were there. But Spanish,
Exactly.
again, no, that argument about learning to speak Spanish versus technology, again, apples and oranges.
Is it?
It is.
You don't see any sort of possibility that in the future they might say, look, in order to work in this world, you have to be able to speak Spanish.
Well, I mean, if that's the requirement to do a certain job, that is different versus attending a concert. If learning Spanish and being bilingual to get a job is part of the requirements to get said job, that is much different than using it for recreational reasons like going to a concert or taking a tour of a stadium.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Because if you want to get paid by doing that job, you will learn it. But if you're telling me I have to learn Spanish to go to a concert, why am I going to that concert?
Oh, okay. So if he didn't want to go to wherever he's going to go, he could just choose not to go.
Well, that's kind of what he's doing if he doesn't want to figure out how to get the ticket.
Well, and that's the thing is, so they're going to make an arrangement that my mom is going to go down to the stadium with the tickets on her phone and checked in, and then she's going to go home.
Well, that's fine. That's very nice of your
Yeah,
mom.
that's very nice. I thought that was a good solution. Now, on the other side, I said, well, I don't understand how he can know how to use a computer but doesn't know how to use his phone. I don't understand that. Now, she brought up a good point. It's like, what does it matter? Why can't they take a paper ticket? What's it? What is it with if I bring a paper ticket and you scan it, I put the ticket back in my pocket. It's no shirt off your skin.
But just because that's the way something's always been done, does that mean we have to keep doing that way if we have a better solution that leads to cutting down on waste of like paper?
I don't know if that I don't know. I don't know if that's such a big impact. I guess it would save on the paper, like you were saying that as a season ticket holder, you no longer get tickets.
Let me ask you this: if we did open heart surgeries today, the same way we did them when we started 50 years ago, we'll say,
Mm-hmm.
and we stayed doing it the same way for 50 years, ignoring all the other technology because that's the way we were taught and that's the way we were raised. Does it make it okay just to do it that way, or is it okay to have a different way of doing it that's more advanced and more with the times?
Yeah, I guess if it's considered more with the times and has a better success rate, yeah, learn the
So,
new way.
so what's the difference then at that point? If the new way for concerts, games, whatever, are a paperless ticket on your phone, why did we have to go take 2 steps back because we took 3 steps forward?
I think the argument that you would hear from people on the other side of this argument is that by making this change to your policy, you are shutting out a group of individuals who will not go to your concerts because of it.
Well, I would argue that fact that's fine for everyone that doesn't buy a ticket because they can't figure out technology. There is someone who can figure out technology that will buy the ticket.
And that may or may not be so. I guess it depends on the venue, right? But I think that I think that there is something to be said about people who do not learn technology simply because they're afraid of it.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean? Like they don't. They're. It's not even that they couldn't do it. They're just so intimidated by it. It's like I don't want to learn this. I don't want to learn this.
well, and that's a personal choice more than any kind of violation of their rights or discrimination. If you have the ability to learn something but you choose not to, that shouldn't make you any kind of class of citizen that had their rights taken away.
Right. Yeah. It's basically, hey, if
So,
you want to do this, then if
so
you want to do
yeah.
this, you have to follow our rules.
Well, that's pretty much what happened here. Is your mom was nice enough to help these people out by giving them tickets on her phone, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm sorry if you don't want to figure out and it takes 5 minutes to figure that out. And if someone could walk them through and show them where they're at on their phone, I'm sure they'd be fine. But they have to want to learn that technology, and they have to want to learn to do those things. And if they
Right.
don't want to, then when life passes them by, they got no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah. I think that her biggest complaint was that she couldn't see the logic of why they don't want to do paper tickets. She couldn't understand that. What does it matter to them?
Well, I guess to me that comes down to is, your mom's a pretty savvy person as far as staying with technology, and
Well, how about
that's
this? She would figure out this part because she likes going to concerts. She likes going to shows. So she would figure this part out because it's like it's important to her. Versus someone, if it's not that important, maybe it's like, why do I need to learn how to go? Why do I need to learn how to do this when I go to a concert once every 5 years?
and that's the other side too. If
Yeah.
you want to bad enough, you'll figure it out. If this is just someone says, hey, you'd really like to see this stadium, you'd love it. That's different versus like, oh my god, I go there for every Raiders game ever. Because you're right. Where there's a will, there's a way, and if you want
Yep.
something bad enough, you'll figure it out.
Oh heck yeah.
And
Oh heck yeah.
but going back to your example, if I have to learn Spanish to go to a concert, I'm not learning Spanish to go to that concert.
Why
I'll
not?
find it on I'll find it on
Hey,
YouTube.
that's the way that our society is moving, dude. That's the way our society's moving. Why wouldn't you want to learn that? See,
Well,
it's
because
amazing how you can turn it. If society said, "Hey, we want everyone to be bilingual in the United States," how many people would say, "Well, screw that. I never had to use it before. I'm not going to do it now."
well, you'll have a good percentage of those people. But
Right. And
also going
so
to a
then
concert for choice
is
versus mandatory.
but is it unfair to those people that aren't willing to learn something that's out of their comfort zone to then prohibit them from going to something?
Well, if we're gonna hold hands and coddle people who are afraid to do things because it's out of their comfort zone, then we have a bigger problem as a nation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm just saying there's a big difference between doing something because you have to stay up with the world versus something that you just is an option that you just don't like because that's the way the world's going.
So, okay, 40 years from now, because I started thinking about this, is that I feel like my parents' generation, our parents' generation was kind of the last generation where the advancements of technology kind of outpaced their interest in learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Like our generations and the newer generations, obviously, technology is changing so rapidly all the time that you just become accustomed to, I've got to learn a new technology. I've got to learn a new technology. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like that's what you, so I feel like we're the first generation everyone behind us, where that's just part of your programming in and of itself. No matter you're 85 years old, you're going to be more used to learning a new technology than one generation before us. So
Yeah,
I don't see
that's
this as
fair.
being a problem for the upcoming generations. And maybe that's the way that these venues and ticketing places are looking at it. It's like, hey, the vast majority of people know how to do this. We're talking about a very small
Yeah.
minority
Well,
of people.
that's an argument we have in our department all the time with what we do is how long do we have to coddle the general population because we're afraid some people don't get their advertising information a certain way.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, okay. So if it's always been done this way, that's great, but do we still have to do it that way because that's the way some people expect it, or are there other avenues where it's more modern and more cost efficient?
Yeah, and if there's ways to do it more cost efficient, obviously that would be
You
interesting.
know, like paperless
One thing,
tickets.
yeah, well, one thing I was thinking about too is like for us, 40 years from now, they're probably going to have like some sort of reader on your fingertip that, hey, you want to buy something? You just scan the reader and it takes it out of your account.
Oh yeah, we got the beta version of that in their COVID shots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they're tracking us and everything else.
Oh
But
yeah.
I mean, when I'm 80 years old, if they say, "Hey, Jason, you got to get this scanner imprinted on your, or this barcode on your fingertip, so you can access, buying groceries and stuff like that," I think I'll do it. Even if
Yeah.
I'm 80, I think I'll do it.
In reality, in 40 years to be 90. So you got to remember
No,
that.
okay, but think about this though. Okay,
I'll
so
be 80.
same question, right? If in 40 years they say, "Hey, Scott, you have to have a barcode imprinted on your fingertip to be able to buy anything,"
Yeah.
you'll do it, right?
Well, chances are probably because at that point I'm 80, and if they haven't got all my information by then, what's this gonna hurt? Two, I'm still alive, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And three, I got to eat, so fuck it, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. So,
But
like, I mean,
this is no different than what you do with your phones. The tap your phone to make the transaction app. It's no different.
yeah, but I mean, it would be a technology. I mean, if they had some sort of thing that was attached to your body that you had to have surgically put into your body to be able to do something, it may make a difference. Maybe
It might,
not.
it might. But if that's the only avenue they're saying this is how we're doing it, or otherwise you have no money, I don't think that would ever work that way. But that's different versus making it as an option of like one of the many ways. You can use
I
your
don't
phone,
know.
you can use your watch, you can use this, surgically implanted chip on your finger.
15 years ago, they were saying there's no way that taxis were going to be made obsolete because some private person was going to drive you somewhere. No way that would happen. I mean,
Well,
there's no way that Bill Shatner is going to be up in space. No, in a million years that's ever going to happen. So, I mean, to say that something won't happen is we've learned is not possible because anything is possible.
well, I'm honest to God, I am not sure what end of the argument you're on in this one because you've talked yourself in circles on both sides. So
I guess my part is that I understand an elderly person not being as anxious or willing to learn the technologies. That being said, then they don't go to concerts.
yeah, yeah,
I'm totally okay with you doing whatever you want to do, but don't be upset at the companies because they decide.
absolutely. That's why I stood this
That's my
entire
point.
time on it. That
Okay.
is that is
But I'm a
that is
little bit
where I
more
stand.
sympathetic to the older people that some of them may not feel like they need or want to learn the technologies, which is
Well,
fine.
like I
I
said,
don't look
it all
down
comes
on them because they don't learn the technologies. Just like I don't
it
look
all
down on you for not learning Spanish.
it all comes down to choices. And I did learn Spanish back in high school.
Very good, and you use it often. I think.
Un pequeño, very little.
Pequeño. That's right. That's right.
Pequeño, very little. Un
Yeah.
pequeño, very little.
Yeah.
But again, want versus need. If my job said, "Hey, you have to learn Spanish to keep doing what you're doing," well, guess what? I like doing what I'm doing, so I guess I got to get a Rosetta Stone and
That's
figure it
right,
out
baby. Yeah. Exactly.
and rely on Google Translate until I can't anymore.
That's right. That's right.
You
And
know,
believe me, when I go to a ticket, I have no problem carrying it on my phone. Much
yep,
easier.
I
Much
agree.
easier.
So, if you've run into somebody that's come across this technological issue, like a father or a mother or an aunt, uncle, grandparent, we want to hear about it. Tell us your experience. Hit us up at Liquid Carnage on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And I've already plugged our EP, Tom Liquid_EP. Just another one. He had a great weekend down in Tucson at our cousin's wedding, wedding anniversary party. I don't know. I couldn't go because of scheduling conflicts, but he got to see the great state of Arizona again for a weekend. So hopefully he's back in Colorado by now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome back, Tom.
Yeah. I think that being said, Jason, why don't you take us home?
Hey, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.